What is a history of English literature? Is history of English literature all about a collection of books written in English language? Is it all about an account of books written by different writers and arranged in a systematic manner? Is history of English literature all about a combination of writings put together in a systematic order? Is that so? Let's find out what really a history of English literature is. What is a history of English literature? It fixes attention upon the personalities of the men who have made literature possible. That is to say, it puts focus upon the personalities of the men, upon important writers, upon important authors who through their writings have made literature possible, who through their writings have made literature happen. Next point, it encompasses distinctive quality of the genius of each writer, his originality about what new things he has brought to the world, what new tastes he has created in his work, and what fresh departure he has made in the literature of his time. It includes, that is to say, history of English literature consists of the distinctive quality, the best of what has been written by the writer. We move on to the next. What is a history of English literature? It is concerned with the nature and value of the contribution which each writer has personally made to the literature. We have some more ideas. It investigates the nature of the influences that shaped the writer's thought, directed his taste, and helped to give a distinctive character to his work. We have some more ideas to continue with. What is a history of English literature? Literature grows and changes from generation to generation, and in tracing this growth, history must show the place which each writer occupies in it, and his relations with those who went before and with those who came after him. We have some more ideas. Each age has its own line of interest and its own way of thinking and feeling about things. Thus, literature is governed by certain prevailing taste of the time. We have some more ideas about what is a history of English literature. To conclude, we can say that principal object of a history of English literature is to trace the progress of literature through all its transformations from age to age, varying course of its development, and the successive changes which have taken place in its matter, form, and spirit. That is to say, what successive changes that have taken place in the way a writer has written, that is to say matter, content, form, that is to say style, and a spirit, that is to say the way they influenced the people through their writings. Now, take up the questions. Question number 1. Briefly explain the concept about what is a history of English literature. And the answer is, the principal object of a history of English literature is to trace the progress of literature through all its transformations from age to age, varying course of its development, successive changes which have taken place in its matter, form, and spirit. We have some more questions. That is to say, question number 2. Write true or false against each statement. A history of English literature is merely a chronological account of the books which has been written in the English language. Is it true or false? Please think. We will find out the answer. We have the next question. Question number 2. A history of English literature encompasses distinctive quality of the genius of each writer. Is that a statement true or false? Please think. We will find out the answer. A writer of genius makes a fresh departure from the spirit of his time. Is this a statement true or false? Please keep thinking and guessing. A history of English literature does not include the successive changes which have taken place in its matter, form, and spirit of literature. Is this a statement true or false? Please make a guess. We will find out the answer. A successful writer has the art of creating new tastes in his work. Is it true or false? Now, let's find out the answer one by one. The first one, this statement is false. Why? Because a history of English literature is not all about a chronological account of the books written in English language. If that is so, it will become a subject matter of general history, not literature. Therefore, this statement is false. Now move on to the next. This statement is true. Of course, history of English literature includes distinctive quality of the genius of each writer, what each writer has contributed, written with his original work, and so on. So this statement is true. Now go to the next. 3. This statement is also true. A writer of genius makes a fresh departure. Of course, a fresh departure, a new thing added to the collection of writings during the time he exists. So this statement is true. Let's find out the next. This statement is false. And now we have the last one. Of course, this statement is true. A successful writer has the art of creating new tastes in his work. Difference between English literature and English history. Every man belongs to his race and age, and no matter marked how his personality, the esprit of his race and age finds expression through him. Thus, a history of English literature has a national as well as a personal character and interest. Everything that is good or evil has entered into the making of a nation's life, has also entered into the texture of its literature. In other words, we can say that ordinary English history is a nation's biography, while its literature is its autobiography. In English history, we read the story of individuals' actions and practical achievements. In English literature, we go through the story of a nation's intellectual and moral development. English literature observes the inner life of each successive generation. It learns at first hand how it looked at life and what it thought about it. On the other, English history looks at the political life of a nation. It talks about victory and defeat of individuals belonging to the ruling class. In a nutshell, English literature is progressive revelation of the mind and esprit of the English people, whereas English history is a chronological account of people's actions and their consequences. Thank you. Why is the history of English literature divided into periods? Lecture 3. Division of English literature into periods. The division of history of English literature is made primarily as a matter of convenience. Why? Because it is necessary to break a large subject up into parts for better understanding, for better comprehension. We continue. Division of English literature into periods. A period is a certain length of time during which a particular kind of taste prevails, a particular way of writing prevails. The literature of a particular period is marked by various common characteristics of subject matter, thought, tone, and style. We continue with some more ideas. Division of English literature into periods. Undoubtedly, the individual writers of a particular period differs one from another in the specific qualities of personality and in the way they write. We continue. However, we notice that some common characteristics remain pronounced features in the works of all of them, in the works of all of the writers. We have some more ideas about. Having said that, we must be on our guard against treating these periods as absolute fixed. Why? Because history knows nothing of absolute endings and beginnings. It recognizes only a continuous flow. We continue. Hence, in fact, age overlaps age, and in a strict chronology, a man's work may begin in one and end in another. Still, on the whole, the periods of literature are fairly defined. We have some more ideas. They help us concentrate attention upon the things which are most important in each successive stage of that great gradual transformation. This is actually the main business of a period of history of English literature. How to tabulate or order various periods in the history of English literature. Lecture 4. So let's start. And we have introduction. As I have said, the different periods in the history of English literature are not absolute fixed. Why? Because history knows nothing of absolute endings and beginnings. It recognizes only a continuous flow. However, the periods of English literature are fairly defined, and as such, they guide us to know about the spirit of writings in each successive stage of great transformation. So now let's move on to the way different periods have been fairly organized. The first one is literary movements. After that, we have literary periods. The third one is historic periods. And the fourth one is approximate dates. So let's first talk about Old English. And the literary period of the Old English is generally known as pre-Chaucerian period. And historic period of this time is Anglo-Saxon, and approximate date is from 450 to 1066. After that, we have Middle English period, and this period is known as the Age of Chaucer. And historic period is normally known as Norman Conquest, and the date approximately starts from 1066 to 1500. We continue. After that, we have the Renaissance period, and this period is represented by William Shakespeare, so we call it the Age of Shakespeare. And historic period is the Elizabethan age. This age is also known as the Age of Enlightenment, the Age of Revival, that we can discuss later. An approximate date is 1500 to 1660. We continue. We have just the same like literary movements, literary periods, historic periods, and approximate dates. After that, what we call the Elizabethan age, or after the age of William Shakespeare, we have the neoclassical period. And within this period, the first one is the age of Milton, the first part of this neoclassical period. And historic period is the Caroline age. And approximate date, the neoclassical period starts from 1660 to 1798. After John Milton, we have the age of John Dryden, and historic period is the age of Restoration. After that, we have the age of Alexander Pope, and historic period, the Augustan age. So the neoclassical period is represented by three most important personalities of literature: the age of Milton, the age of Dryden, the age of Pope, and it expands for quite a long time, starting from 1660 to 1798. Okay, we continue our discussion as we have literary movements, literary periods, historic periods, and approximate dates. After neoclassical period, we have the Romantic period, and this period in history as well as in literature is represented by the age of William Wordsworth. And historic period is Georgian age, and approximate date starts from 1798 to 1837. Then we have the Victorian period, and this age is represented in literature and known as age of Alfred Tennyson. And historic period is Queen Victoria. And approximate date, it starts from 1837 to 1901. Now we have thereafter the modern period, and this age in literature is represented by T.S. Eliot, and that's why we call it the age of T.S. Eliot. Historic period is George V, and approximate date, it starts from 1901 to 1945. And after the modern period, we have the postmodern period till now. So these are systematic way of putting different periods in a very systematic manner. Hope you understand the concept. Thank you and goodbye.